Holy moly, do I have a good episode for you this week, everybody. Welcome to Three Things with JR, episode number 67. That's right, 67. It's that number. As that number grows, I continue to be in awe of how many times I have done this, and how I'm still ever as excited as I've ever been to do this each week. I look forward to sitting down here and talking not only to you, but to interesting people. And we've got a special one for you tonight. I called somebody kind of out of the blue and put them on the podcast. They had zero time to prepare at all. And normally when I do this, it's people I haven't seen in a long time and wanted to reconnect with. This person does not fit that mold at all. I met this person 5 days ago for the first time. She showed up at an open mic. She went up and did comedy for the first time ever. And I was hosting the mic, so she talked to me. I put her name on the list. I gave her some feedback, and it was really nice. I was encouraging. She did good. She had good stage presence. She had a few good jokes, and we just talked about timing and stuff like that, and nerves and being nervous. And it was a really nice time. And so we became friends on Facebook, and I thought, as I started to look through her Facebook page and realized there's even more to this person than just a person who just started doing comedy for the first time, I decided to just call her up, and she answered, and we talked for a good long time about her first time doing comedy in general, as well as all of the stuff she does when she's not attempting to do comedy for the first time. She does therapeutic massage. I hope I'm saying that right. She does massage, and she also works with horses, and she does coaching, and we're going to talk about exactly what it's called that she does in the interview, so you'll hear it there. She does inspirational coaching and connecting with people. Like, she's just there was a ton of stuff going on in this interview, and at times it's very silly, and at times it's very deep and serious, and I hope you get as much out of this conversation as I do. Her name is Elysia Jane Buss. You can find her on Facebook. You can find her on YouTube. She's got multiple ways of putting her message out there. Global Resources for Men is one of her YouTube channels. If you listen to the whole interview, you'll hear the name of the other channel. I can't remember. I'm literally recording this a minute after we finished talking tonight, and so I haven't had a chance to find. I'm going to put notes to her YouTube channels and stuff in the show notes here. Links to those will be in the show notes so that you can connect with Elysia Buss if you're interested. And so that's what's coming up, and it's so good, and it's such a deep interview. There's so much to it. I almost thought about not sharing my three things with you this week just because there's so much to unpack here. But they're good. They're really good. I'm happy with these three things. And so I'm going to give them to you. And this show's just going to be long. And I promise you, if you keep listening, and especially if you get all the way to the end, you will be glad you did. So here are my three things.
Thing number one.
The pandemic of the unvaccinated is upon us. From what I've read and heard in the news, and mostly I listen to like NPR, the majority of people that are now getting sick with COVID, especially with this Delta variant, are the people that are not yet vaccinated. That's where the hot spots are. The overwhelming majority of the people who are sick, especially those who are really sick and in the hospital and dying, like 85-90% of those people are not vaccinated. And the pockets where there's a high concentration of people that refuse to get vaccinated, that's where it's the worst. And I get it. Getting vaccinated is a personal choice, and I'd certainly respect anyone's desire to not put that substance in their body. However, those people, I feel, are also probably the people you see out in public that are not wearing masks anymore, despite the fact that most businesses still require them for the unvaccinated. I feel like there's a lot of people who are just thinking to themselves, I'm not vaccinated, and nobody's actually checking for for vaccination cards or anything. They don't ask. So if I just walk in like I own the joint, they'll think I'm vaccinated, even though I'm not. And I can get away with it now, and I didn't used to be able to when there was a mask mandate. I really want places to check. I want businesses to check for vaccination cards. I want there to be a vaccination passport or whatever it is, because if you don't have your vax card on you, you better have your mask or you should be turned away. I think that's how it should be. And I get why that's probably not the way. Most businesses are not looking to turn away the customers willing to go shopping in them right now, and that's why it's not happening in most places. But it's kind of like when I turned 18 and I could buy cigarettes, or when I turned 21 and I could buy alcohol. All I wanted was to get carded so that I could prove that I was old enough and I was allowed to do this. And I have that vaccine card in my wallet. I am eagerly awaiting any business to say, yeah, you don't have to wear a mask. Show me your vaccination card, and I would be happy to do so. It's kind of annoying now, though, to get carded for cigarettes or beer, because I go in, I pay with my watch, and I don't even have to get my wallet out of my pocket anymore to use Apple Pay, except if I go to Wawa, they're going to card every single person purchasing alcohol and cigarettes, and so I'm going to get carded. I got to get the wallet out anyway. I'm digressing. That's a side issue. All this to say that one part of me is totally okay with the idea that it's now a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Let the idiots get sick and die. There's only one problem with that. It's not that simple, because there are people I love and respect who are otherwise incredibly smart, and they have decided to not get the vaccine. And so I can't just draw that easy line in the sand. Damn it.
Thing number 2.
Bang. Kiki and I went out to dinner last night at a restaurant in Charlottesville called Bang. That's it. That's the name of the restaurant. And if you're in Charlottesville and you've been to Bang, you know it's amazing. It's tapas, small plates. We actually were going out to dinner last night when we realized it was the last day of restaurant week, and so we lucked into a pretty good deal. We got a bunch of great things. I highly recommend the pork barbecue tacos, General Tso's cauliflower, and the goat cheese dumplings. They were all amazing. But it doesn't stop there, because on the way home, Kiki said to me, "Isn't there a song called Bang?" And it reminded me when I was in Florida about a month ago, my sister said, "Hey, play this song." And she gave me the name of a song and a band, and I put it on, and the song is called Bang. It's by a band called AJR, and it's awesome. And Kiki had just recently heard it, and she couldn't remember the details. And I was like, yeah, I think there is a song called Bang. Let's listen to it. And we just jammed out to that song like 3 times in a row on the way home from the restaurant Bang. We listened to Bang, and it was fantastic. When I did it on Spotify, I had searched for the word bang. And of course, multiple songs come up when you search for the word bang. And I had forgotten about it kind of reminded me of the best song I've ever heard with the word bang in the title. It's actually Bang Bang by Nancy Sinatra. And I first heard this song on the Kill Bill soundtrack. Such a good movie, by the way. And the song is amazing. It's got this crazy sort of sultry, deep darkness to it by Nancy Sinatra. She's a self-proclaimed bad girl, and as I was listening to that, we went on and listened to These Boots Are Made for Walking and several other songs, and she's awesome. I was reading her bio, and of course I knew she was the daughter of Frank Sinatra. What I did not know was that she forged her own path at school and entertainment and what she does for a living, and it's very likely she would have been just as successful as she was if she hadn't been born the daughter of Frank Sinatra. That's how talented Nancy Sinatra is. Great voice, fun singer, and she's awesome. So, Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down. That's actually the full title of the song. So I highly recommend it. Also recommend Bang by AJR. That's a 2021 song that kicks ass. And I also recommend Bang, the restaurant in Charlottesville. That's the stuff that's inspiring me right now. Can't stop thinking about all three.
Thing number 3.
I've made it clear on this show that I love Scrapple. But have I made it clear that I also love Spam? Both can be prepared in the exact same way. Fry it up in a frying pan, eat it plain or with some ketchup. It's amazing. I love talking about Scrapple and Spam with other people because people either share my love of these most amazing foods, or they practically vomit at the mere mention of them. And a similar thing actually happens with another one of my favorite foods, which are anchovies. I could eat them plain out of the can, put them on pizza, Caesar salad with anchovies. I mean, I love anchovies, and people either love them or hate them. And man, all this talk just makes me want a Scrapple anchovy Spam sandwich. I think that might be amazing. I have yet to combine all three things into one meal, one sandwich, but I think I'm going to in the very near future. It does need some sort of sauce, though, and usually I put mayonnaise on my sandwich, which I know is also a polarizing sort of condiment, but not quite as polarizing as Scrapple, Spam, and anchovies. So instead of mayonnaise, I think I'm going to add some lubrication to my sandwich in the form of easy cheese. You know, the stuff you squeeze out of a can. So I think that's going to be bread with easy cheese spread on both sides with Spam, Scrapple, and anchovies on there. And yeah, I think it's going to be amazing. Also, let's talk about one last thing here. I was recently made aware of something I did not know existed previously, and I don't know how it has eluded me all these years. Did you know there's a thing called anchovy paste? It's right there in the grocery store. Like, you can just buy it at any place they sell groceries. And if you like the convenience of squeezy cheese or like a Go-Gurt type of a thing, you know, where you just sort of open the top and squeeze it into your mouth, you can now get that same on-the-go convenience with anchovies. I now keep a tube of it in my backpack, and if I ever find myself in need of a snack, I just squirt some salty, fishy goodness into my mouth, and boom, instant satisfaction. All right, if you're still listening to this, if you're not totally disgusted by thing number 3, thank you so much for sticking with me. We're going to do a quick break. We're going to come right back with my special guest, Elysia Jane Buss.
Wake up, wake up, wake up. There's no time for play. Get up, get up, get up. It's a brand new day.
Hey.
Hello, Elysia. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. So, I'm assuming you've never listened to my podcast, right? Because
I haven't.
Of course.
You're just like, come get on my podcast. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? What are we talking about? I have literally no idea what I just walked into.
That's my favorite part about what I do on my podcast. So I'm one of the many comedians that started a podcast at the beginning of the pandemic because we had no other way to get our word out, right? No other creative outlets. It was all gone.
Sure.
And so it's called Three Things with JR. And it came from when I was still married years ago and not real happy in the marriage. I would stay up way late at night, you know, avoiding going to bed. And I would, you know, watch videos on YouTube and surf the internet. And I would start posting on Facebook 3 things. And it was just, the first one was like 3 things that are on my head right now before I go to bed. And I just shared them out. And I started doing that every day, and it was kind of therapeutic, and people liked it, and it lasted for a couple months, and then it kind of fizzled out, and people told me, especially a guy I play music with, he's like, you should do that again. And so that was my idea when I started the podcast, was to sort of recreate that magic if possible. So the first many episodes were just me saying what's on my mind. And one day I was sitting there looking at Facebook, and I thought, I'm just going to start calling people that I know that are on Facebook, see if they answer. And if they answer, I'll record the whole thing and I'll basically interview people. And it made a lot of sense because mostly it was people that I hadn't seen or heard from in a while. A lot of it because of the pandemic or geography or just life differences and changes and all of that over years. I've talked to high school friends. I've talked to people I just haven't seen in a year or so, family members. And it's become the most fun thing I do each week is to interview people I haven't seen in a while. But you don't exactly fit that mold because we literally just met like 5 days ago.
Right.
And so I want to explain, I'll go back and record like an intro later so people know who you are. But so we met at an open mic comedy night that I was hosting, and you were doing your first ever stand-up comedy.
That's right. With like zero prep.
Zero prep. So when I did my first open mic, I probably spent a month, sort of, I mean, more than that, a couple months, just, I had started to become observant in a way, like looking at the world through the lens of how could this be a joke? And I started writing stuff down and realizing that could be a joke, and I'd rehearse it. And then I realized there was an open mic in Charlottesville, and I was like, I'm going to do it. And I didn't tell anybody, nobody that I wanted nobody I knew to be there at all. And I showed up, I did it. I got about enough laughs to make me want to come back. And I remember getting off stage and shaking and like had to go outside and just like cool off and all of that. And so
that's the thing.
What your experience Wednesday night reminded me in many ways of my first time doing comedy. And, but I definitely was like doing it into a mirror before I went out there. I was recording myself at home, things like that. You say no prep. What does that mean? Because there's somewhere in between what I did and what you did.
So what happened is that for years people have been telling me to do stand-up because apparently some people think I'm funny.
Okay.
And just every once in a while, I mean, like, you guys are so nice. You're just placating me, but it can't be all the time. And so I went and I did. So I'm also an inspirational speaker, and I went and I did a Q&A, and I'm new to that gig too because I have lots of interesting stories. And I went to a Q&A for the Elysia Boss Babes, and afterwards, this lady comes up to me, and she's just like, "Hey, you're really funny. I think you should do stand-up." And I was like, that wasn't actually supposed to be funny. But that's cool. I mean, I guess there were like a couple things that were kind of supposed to land in me funny, but like collectively, it wasn't like me being up there trying to do a bit. And, and so I was just like, you know what? To hell with it. I'm just going to just push myself even further into a stage of growth and discomfort so that because I just like to grow and become a unique person. I collect stories and try and inspire other people through doing brave things so that hopefully then they'll be inspired to do brave things in their own unique, beautiful, authentic style and talents. And so I made this giant post for the Elysia Boss Babes, which has over 1,000 women in it. And I was just like, hey, if anybody wants to come down and watch me randomly do stand-up, you should come down because I'm going to be crazy and do stand-up sober. And I literally was having coffee with some of my girlfriends on Tuesday morning, and the stand-up is on Wednesday night. And we're chatting, and I'm telling them, oh yeah, I'm going to do stand-up. And then I was like, wait, shit, that's tomorrow. I should probably try and prep for that or something.
Yeah.
And I'm also a massage therapist, so I would literally like be massaging somebody and I'm thinking in my brain, could this be funny? Could that be funny? And just having this Rolodex in my brain of different things that maybe it would be okay. And then wondering, okay, what am I allowed to talk about? Since I've been a teacher in my past life. Now I do connection coaching with horses, but I do that. And then being a massage therapist, and as a massage therapist, you're not allowed to talk about sex. Like, this is just not something that's done. There are very clear lines, right?
That makes sense.
Are people going to be able to distinguish between my professional life as a massage therapist and then my life is an attempt at a stand-up comic? Is this a safe space for me? Not quite sure. And then I just said, fuck it. And I was just like, okay, well, we're just going to do this thing. And then there were a couple comics up there that, one in particular that did a really terrible job. And I was like, I can do this because there's no way I can be worse than that.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's okay for me to say. But, in every stand-up comedy act, I feel like there's got to be at least one person that's the worst that's going to go up there.
If you go to an open mic, you are going to see a wide variety of quality in comics. Everything from that guy who got up for a minute and a half, had no jokes, did it as lost a bet, and was awful. That was the
I
worst.
wasn't there for that. I was outside, like trying to breathe through
Yeah.
the amount of shaking and adrenaline rushing through my body
Well,
after being on stage.
and then there's people that just aren't that good, even though they've been trying for a little while. All the way up to people that are refining jokes they've been working on, and they're clearly good, right? And this is a safe space for them to just sort of workshop new stuff. And so it's not always the best way to know who's great, because sometimes you might have a great comic working out a new joke that just doesn't work. And other times,
That's fair.
yeah. But no, you're 100% right. I had similar feelings my first night because I had to go up like 7th or 8th. So there was a handful of people before me, and a couple of them was like, okay, I think what I have to say is going to be better than what I just witnessed. So I'm feeling good.
Right?
And then the person who went up right before me killed, like destroyed the room. And I'm like, oh shit, I got to follow that. Oh man.
Right?
But
it's so hard.
yeah, but I had similar thoughts. I'm like, I think I can do this. Like, it was seeing that there was somebody up there not killing was enough for me to go, okay, I should be at least giving this a shot.
Yeah, it was really important. Like right before I went up, somebody that I wasn't keen to see like showed up 5 minutes before my bit, and it made it like even harder for me to be up there. I was just like, the fuck are you doing here? Why?
Yes.
Of all the times for you to just randomly show up with my spear, like this is the time? Really? Universe? This is okay. You're like, it's just like level up, Elysia. You're gonna have to just do this thing. And I'm just like, fuck.
So,
and
So were you workshopping jokes with your massage clients? Like, did that get awkward? Were there interesting moments doing that, or did you just avoid that?
I'm like, do you remember my set? Like, I don't think that.
I do remember it, and before I called you, I went back and watched it on Facebook because you posted it. I was like, I should probably have more of this close and easily remembered, because it, when you do a bunch of these open mics, they all sort of blend together. So you went blue. You decided you were not going to be like a family friendly comic. Like, you've already made that call.
I'm not a family friendly comic. I mean, my joke is that I'm a Gemini, so I can be dirty or I can be clean. But there's a time and place for all things, but my preference is definitely being a dirty comic. Yeah. That's my playful place.
So, what's been the feedback? You said a whole bunch of people have watched your video on YouTube or Facebook. What have you got? Have you gotten other feedback?
We're up to 244 views since Wednesday. Somebody just shared it in England.
Wow.
So that's, like, why not?
Sure.
It was a mutual share. I like randomly ran across this person's page, and he had a bunch of clean jokes at the grocery store. And I'm a big fan of grocery store stories. And he was very punny. I love dad jokes.
Okay.
I do. I have a deep love of terrible dad jokes.
Nice.
And when I was teaching in 6th grade, my 6th graders voted me the punniest.
Okay.
And of the whole class.
Nice.
It was a funny award for a teacher. But yeah, so I shared his stuff, and then I directed him to watch my stuff, and apparently he thought it was funny enough to share. So that was cool. Everybody seems to tell me that they like my stuff, which is surprising. I'm just, it's unfortunate because in the beginning, right, it just totally skips over my one joke that I had actually practiced.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what was going on. It seemed like there were some edits. That was not like a creative edit. That was
no. Somebody had tried to put their cell phone on top of a water glass, and they had put it like right where the volume was. So every time they'd move it, it would cut the video. And so the person, she was nice enough to splice them all together. But so there was some technological difficulties.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but the beginning of the joke has to do with. Do you want me to tell the beginning of the joke because people can't hear it on my?
Was this the Army of Ghosts joke?
No, that
one you got out completely.
Yeah, no, the Army of Ghosts, that is like real life story. I feel like for me, as a single woman.
That's a good line. Like,
you like that one?
And if there's stories to back it up, like if you have the chance to work out a longer set or make that the whole 5 minutes, Like that, I presume that could go to some interesting places, but the army of ghosts is a good visual. It's a good it's a good tag for sure.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate that feedback. I just kept envisioning, the Lord of the Rings and the guy going deep into the mountains and all those ghosts.
Yeah.
Big ghosts, little ghosts, fat ghosts, buried ghosts, so many ghosts.
You could tie it. You can almost tie it into the pit of despair from The Princess Bride, right? Because a lot of people go in, but they don't come back out.
The pit of despair.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's definitely like a Friday night for me when I think somebody's actually going to show up to date me, and then they just totally ghost me, and I sit at home in the pit of despair with no one to hear my screams except for my 3 pints of ice cream that I've demolished in an hour and a half.
Oh no. On my first date with my girlfriend, she thought I had ghosted her. So we met at the restaurant. We were sitting outside, table for two. It was a beautiful evening. We were eating. She had to go to the bathroom. So while she was in the bathroom, I went and walked like 20 feet over to the patio so I could smoke a cigarette, because you couldn't smoke at the table and didn't really want to smoke in front of her anyway. And so I was over there smoking when she came back to the table and I was gone. And she didn't see me. She didn't know where I was. She started texting her friends like, well, guess what just happened to me? And then I walked back up and she's like, oh, you're here. So that happens apparently way more than I would ever have thought happens to women. Like that's a thing, huh?
It doesn't happen just to women. I have a lot of guy friends who get ghosted by women fairly regularly, and
but that's probably their fault, though, right?
I mean, not any more than it's our fault as women. We get a little bit of anxious attachment style going on, and then we start blowing up people's phones because we're like, "Wait, why didn't you call me? I waited for a whole 3.5 minutes. You really should have called me by now. Don't you know how awesome I am? You really should call me. I want to call. Should I call him? Should I not call him? No, I'll call my girlfriend. I'll talk to her about how I should call him, but I won't actually call him. But I'll think about calling him, and then I'll text him like 3 different times because I didn't actually call him, though. I just texted him, so it's totally fine, right?"
Oh, my gosh.
And then he ghosts her because he's like, this bitch is crazy. And nobody wants none of that.
Right.
But we only had sex one time, and I know I'm not actually that good. So what is going on right now?
See, there's a lot. You have a wealth of experiences to pull from, clearly, to use that as material for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. I've actually been single for 13 years. It's funny. Sometimes people, they think that those of us that are at least moderately attractive, that we don't still get ghosted and stupid shit doesn't happen to us, but it absolutely does.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
All the time. All the time. People look at me like I'm nuts when I tell them that I've been single for 13 years, and they're just like, "Are you secretly insane? Do you have a penis?" And I'm like, well, either way, people are still into that, somewhere on the spectrum, so that shouldn't even be a thing.
Yeah, you could totally find someone that's into that if you want. Yeah, for sure.
It's like the crazy triangle, right? Because if you're how does it go again for guys? It's like if the girl is hot, then she has to be crazy. You can't have sane, hot, and stable or something like that. Is that the triangle? I forget.
That makes sense. I mean, I don't know that we have really discussed it that much. At the guy meetings that we have, but what you just said sounds like a PowerPoint slide for sure.
Right. You get 2 out of 3, but you don't usually get 3.
Right.
3 is a unicorn. Those people don't exist. They've got to be somewhere on the spectrum.
Yeah.
You could have a Venn diagram.
Meet right in the middle.
Meet right in the middle.
Yeah.
This is your quintessential person. If you find them, do whatever you have to keep them. It doesn't matter.
That's right. Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel about my girlfriend. She's pretty awesome.
Aww,
and
I love that.
We've been together now for 6 years, and it's been awesome. And I call myself happily divorced with a cool girlfriend. Because
I was going to say, I'm what, it's 6 years. Why are you not remarried already? it's very confusing to me.
Because I'm never going to get married again. Never.
You're like, I don't need that.
I don't.
You're like, I could spend $10,000 on a really epic vacation, maybe a new car. Who needs a party that's that expensive? Honestly, you could just pretend that you're getting married and just save on all the money and make it like a giant potluck.
Right.
You're like, hey, we haven't dressed up in a while. Everybody come over. We're gonna get fancy.
I mean, a wedding is a fun time. I've been to a lot of weddings, right? But I don't want to pay for one because I know what they cost, and that's insane. Plus, I just don't need a piece of paper proving to the government or anybody that I'm in a committed, stable, rewarding relationship. I'm just going to let that speak for itself, and I don't need that. And my girlfriend doesn't either. She's totally cool.
You don't need that? I feel like they give you like some sort of gold star, like an award, a statue maybe, to have that kind of relationship. And like, hey, I know for most people just a piece of paper, but we legit want to give you a statue for the functionality of your relationship because that shit just doesn't happen very often. We want to acknowledge you and your girlfriend for your awesomeness. That's the only.
I appreciate that. Should I send you my address so you can mail that to me now? And my girlfriend and I will do a video thanking you for the trophy.
Yeah, for sure. Did you want it out of popsicle sticks and like marshmallows, or what are we doing for this sort of?
Yeah, I want one of those edible bouquets. If I could get that, that'd be great.
Oh, edibles. I mean, like weed has just been legalized. So what kind of edibles are we talking about?
I hadn't even considered that sort of edible bouquet. This could be a lot more fun than I had anticipated.
Like, I just didn't even know.
Yeah.
Like, you get invited to weddings? I don't usually get invited to weddings. No. People are just a little too, they're too intimidated. They're like, no, you're way too good of a flirt. You can't come to the wedding. My husband might be getting cold feet, or maybe the wife, like people swing a lot of ways these days.
That's true. So this is one of the reasons I called you, because as soon as you walked up to the table, we immediately had fun talking about stuff, and I was looking forward to your set, and this is great. I want to know more about the other stuff you do. You say inspirational coaching, speaking is also a new thing you're doing. What's that all about?
So I do a lot of things. I'm obviously a massage therapist, which we've clarified that is a professional role, not my fun role of life.
Right.
Been doing that for almost 20 years, doing medical massage. And then I'm a connection coach with and without horses. So I help people with emotional regulation and having clear communication and boundaries. And I run a men's group on Facebook. I have over 226 men worldwide, and I provide a safe, non-judgmental space for men to be able to vulnerably share without shame or invalidation, and to be able to engage in what some would consider taboo conversations, to just get their voice out there, because I believe everybody deserves to have a voice, and that includes men.
So, and the men that are in your group are people that don't feel safe to tell what's on their mind in most of the rest of their life.
Yeah, I mean, just all different kinds of men. Maybe they feel comfortable, but they want to be able to expand their community of men, and that they talk to about different things. I found that, so I created 2 global men's summits this last year. I did a summit on masculinity in relationships and masculinity in business. And I had men representing every continent. And I had millionaires, Hollywood producers, life coaches, men with disabilities, men of color, men from the military, men with different sexual orientations. And I had them all on a Zoom call together, vulnerably sharing their personal stories and obstacles that they overcame, and sharing wisdom and supporting one another as the great equalizer and talking about masculinity.
Holy shit. I don't even know what to say. I mean, from a logistical standpoint, how did you make the Zoom call not a nightmare for that many people online? I mean, like how do you know who's supposed to be talking? I mean, that's hard enough. I work on a Zoom call type of a thing every day at my normal job, and I'm training 12 people, and that can be difficult enough. I can't imagine a huge group like that. It
was a lot. I'd never done anything like that before. And the person that was supposed to help us with marketing in the beginning bailed. And so I actually I was on the road traveling for 4.5 months across the country 3 times by myself, homeless. And I had banked up until the first summit, because I had somebody convince me that we were going to make like a lot of money in ticket sales, and then he bailed. And I still ran through the finish line, and created the summits to support the men that had already committed to that. And so the numbers weren't as high, but I have somebody in Australia helping to edit them. So we will hopefully soon have them on my second YouTube channel, which is Global Resources for Men. Okay. And my men's group on Facebook has the same name. So I also have a women's group, but I focus a lot more in my men's group, just because I feel that men don't have as much support as women do. And I'm looking at creating a live group here in Charlottesville, which basically I just facilitate. Obviously I'm a woman.
Right.
And so my role is, as a facilitator, is just to keep the safe space going and not allow shaming words or invalidation to come forward, and just prompt the questions and then have the men share and do different activities and support one another and have conversations they might not otherwise have, because if they talk to other people, men or women, they might be shut down because of their experience. For instance, if a man had experienced domestic violence or sexual assault by a man or a woman, there aren't very many places where men can talk about that and feel safe to do so.
No, I would imagine a lot of the guys, they might try it. Maybe they've attempted to talk about that with somebody, and they probably have heard things like, "Is that even possible, dude? Come on," like that kind of thing, right? Like, but for a man to be a victim of that sort of stuff, I think there's a lot of people that just like, no, that's not a thing.
Yeah, and it absolutely happens. And so I've had men on my YouTube channel and in the men's group share about their experiences being sex trafficked, being a victim of domestic violence, and also as a parent dealing with their daughters being sexually assaulted, and what that is like, not only for supporting their daughter, but also finding support for themselves and all the different things that go through their heads with that experience.
And so is one of the main benefits of the group that the men find other men they get to talk to? I mean, it's not just that they get to talk to you about it, it's that they get to talk to each other.
Yeah, absolutely. So the group isn't really like, well, I offer connection coaching. It's not about me. Like, I leave that door open for them, but I don't promote the coaching that I do in the men's group. The men's group is for other men to promote the services that they do as life coaches, counselors, as personal trainers, and us having an abundance mindset and showing what that is. So I allow men of all kinds to promote their services on my platform.
Gotcha.
So that men can see which other men around the world they resonate with, because we have 9 different intelligence styles and how we process information. We have 4 different attachment styles. So anxious attachment, avoidant attachment, secure attachment, and the combination, and a very small percentage of the population of the ancient avoidant attachment styles. And we have 5 different love languages. So how we express our love in the world. You know, some people it's more acts of service, others words of affirmation, some people's gifts, sometimes people it's physical touch. And so when you combine all of those things together, it's really important to understand that each individual will not be able to serve the masses.
Right.
And honoring all of our unique talents and how we can step forward in integrity in our authentic selves to meet the people around us and be the rising tide that raises all the ships, instead of jockeying for ego and position and expectations. It's more of a round table sort of situation.
And you mentioned a lot of, movie directors, people like that. It sounds like a lot of type A personalities. Is that challenging to get them to be vulnerable, to open up and things like that? I mean...
So the type of men that are pulled into my groups and to engage with me tend to be men that are ready to have a conversation. And that one of my unique skill sets is the ability to make people feel safe to open up and not be judged.
Yeah.
And so that's the environment that I created for the men, both in my summit and in the interviews that I do and in my group. And one of the things that was amazing in the summit was that there was not a single man that was on that summit that put their ego in play. Every single man supported one another equally. And it didn't matter their race, their socioeconomic status, their fame, none of it. They were just all there as human beings.
Man, that's awesome. Those are some special dudes.
They are. They're really special dudes. Absolutely. It takes a particular kind of person to own what they've done that was not ideal, the positions they put themselves in, to be able to really take a step back and see the bigger picture and have the opportunity to check their ego and support one another and themselves and grow to the next level and not shame one another like for your past. The person that started this entire thing, when I interviewed him, he was vulnerably sharing his story of being convicted of domestic assault. And that was a very vulnerable, scary thing for him to do, but he felt safe enough with me to be able to put that out there on my channel.
Wow.
For the horsepower empowerment through connection, because he also works with horses and he's a former Marine.
Yeah, horses. You've mentioned this multiple times. How do horses fit into all of this?
Horses are amazing.
So I should tell you, I'm surrounded by horses literally as I sit here. My girlfriend and I live on a huge farm. She runs a horse business. She rents the barn. She teaches. She coaches. She trains the horses. She trains the people. I personally, I'm not a horse person. I'm familiar with them. I'm around them all the time. Like literally there's 20 horses surrounding my house. So yeah, I get horses. What I don't get is how they were a part of your therapy.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thank you for asking. I should definitely come over and meet your girlfriend and hang out with the horses. Just
for sure.
A side note, that needs to happen.
Well, I can tell you, the people that board horses at her barn, when their horses are lame, or if they're they're sick, or if they lose a horse, I mean it's earth shattering, and so the state of the horse is absolutely tied to the state of the human.
Yeah, and so a lot of people, like, we look at an action that happens in a reaction, but oftentimes as people, we struggle to take personal accountability of how what we do and say and feel affects other people. So I was working with, I don't do therapy, by the way, I do coaching. It's very clear that your scope of practice is different.
Got it.
So I just like to throw that out there.
I said therapy. Elysia didn't say therapy. I said that.
Yeah,
and
we're being clear.
And I was wrong. So yes.
Equine Facilitative Connection Coaching. That's what I do. And so as a massage therapist, so I'm also certified to work on horses as well as dogs. Though I don't work on horses as much massage-wise because I've had 2 low back surgeries in the last 10 years. But I still understand biomechanically what's happening. And what a lot of people don't think about is how the tightness in their bodies affects the tightness in their horses' bodies. And the energy that they have affects the energy that their horse has. So if you're sitting on top of your horse and you have anxiety, it's going to increase the horse's anxiety because they're like, what are we supposed to be afraid of? And all the little subtle movements that you're making in your body is translated to your horse. And then their physiological body responds to that pressure of like your thighs, or if you're pulling a little bit more on the reins on the left. And it's just a chain effect, right?
Sure.
Like dominoes patterning within your own body. And your energy, so a person and a horse co-regulate. So what I mean by that is that, for instance, we have what most would consider our space bubble, right? It's an electromagnetic field that goes around our entire bodies that's emanated from our heart, can be scientifically measured. The same thing occurs with horse, except theirs is considerably larger than ours.
Makes
so
sense.
When our spheres get in the same space, co-regulation can occur. So if you calm down, the horse can calm down, and vice versa if you're attuned to that.
Yeah.
Different chemicals are released in the brain, like happy chemicals. So we joke that when they say, oh, girls are addicted to horses, it's like, no, legit, they are. Like, that's a chemical thing that's happening in their brains, that we're addicted to that feeling that we get when we're around the horses.
Yeah, I see it.
And then horses communicate through nonverbal communication. A lot of people these days are struggling with nonverbal communication because we're behind computers so much, right? And then we spent a year behind a mask where we can't read as much. If a person can't read the nonverbal cues of another person, it decreases their ability to predict the behavior of the other person, hence increasing their anxiety because they don't know whether or not they're safe, even if it's on a subconscious level.
Yep.
So if we teach people nonverbal communication, we teach them how to be aware of what's happening in their body energetically and physiologically, then they're able to control it more so and be able to regulate their emotions. If you can regulate your emotions, then when you feel anger, shame, or a heightened sense of like manic love that some people get into, because oftentimes we talk about, anger and rage, but we don't typically talk about the peak end of feeling in love with somebody when people also don't necessarily make like logic-based choices.
Right. That makes sense.
So it's about being able to feel the full span of human emotion, but not get stuck in any piece of it, and understand how to healthily engage with the world around you when you're in any of those stages of emotion.
So pulling yourself back and trying to equalize, and the horse is a part of that.
A horse can be a part of that, right? Because people listen to another person, and there's oftentimes a natural filtration process that happens, right? Because you're filtering it through your life experience with other people.
Yeah.
But when you get feedback from a horse through the nonverbal communication and energy, there's less of that filtering happening, and a person is more receptive to the feedback that the horse is giving them.
Yeah.
And they'll see an immediate result if they change their emotional state in regards to a horse's willingness to connect with them. So I like to work with people on the ground at liberty, which means that there are no ropes, no halters, no bridles, or anything on the horse. So the horse has complete autonomy of whether or not they want to connect with that person.
Wow.
And yeah, and so what happens to a person if that horse has no interest in joining up with them?
So are you matching people up with horses that, or are people doing this with the horses that they own, or do you have horses that are going to be safe in an environment like that? Because you've got to carefully choose the horse if you're going to do that.
Right. So both is the answer. So when I travel and I do clinics and workshops, I go to people's facilities and I engage with them and their horses. Or like a therapeutic riding center or whatnot, they have their own horses, and I have an equine specialist that knows the herd of horses, and then we can have a dialogue of what we're doing and, goal setting and how we're going to match people with the horses. And then here, since I'm new to Virginia, I just moved to Charlottesville on February 16th after being on the road for 4.5 months and coming originally from Olympia, Washington.
Welcome to Virginia. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yes, your summers here are rather intense compared to my home state of Washington.
Yeah, this is a little different.
It's an experience. I'm so glad my apartment has air conditioning.
Yeah.
And then so I go out to Horses as Healers at Knight's Gambit Winery, and they allow me to borrow their horses. There's a really cute pony out there named Jamin. He's a blue roan, and he's a Welsh Cob.
I've seen him. We've gone to Knight's Gambit a few times. That's an adorable pony right there, right up by the tasting room. He's like a little...
not the little one. He's the silvery brown one.
Okay.
I think you're thinking of the mini that's there. That's like a yellowish color.
And
really old. He wanders all the time.
I think he has like free range to just walk around wherever he wants, right?
He does.
Yeah.
He's an old man. He's an old man. If anybody sees him and thinks he's skinny, it's not because he's underfed. He's just really, really old. Think about old people. They're usually skinny. It's not because there's anything wrong with how they're treating the horse, I promise. He's very well loved. And equine welfare is, of course, really important to think about, and how we engage with our horses and what we ask of them out of mindfulness, right? And so a lot of people, they go out into the world and they love their horses, and we all don't know what we don't know in life across the board.
Sure.
And so it's not there being any sort of shame or guilt that should be associated with that, but rather an openness to how can we engage with the world, how can we engage with our horses in a way that best meets everyone in integrity and mindfulness. And so it's helping people in that journey and creating a safe space for the horse as well as the human to be able to explore a new area that they haven't necessarily thought of that may trigger them. And how do we create a safe space for them to work through that without crossing over into the line of counseling?
Yeah.
Right? Because everybody has everything that they need inside of them, I think. It's just a matter of who do we surround ourselves with to facilitate the process and transition in that.
This is slightly off topic, but also on topic. We were watching the Olympics last night, first night of, watching some Olympics, and dressage was on.
Dressage was on yesterday and today, yeah.
Yeah, and the oldest Olympian at this year's Olympics, she's 66. I forget her name. I think it's Anne something. She's on her horse doing dressage, and I was just amazed at how intricate. I mean, she's getting this horse to do 30 or 40 different types of steps, and it's like a 5 or 7 minute thing. Like it went on forever, but the lady is literally just sitting there seemingly not moving, right? And I asked my
Yeah.
girlfriend, I was like, how did she tell that horse to start walking sideways just now? Because I didn't see it. I didn't see it. She didn't say anything. She's totally silent. And Kiki, my girlfriend, is like, it's all in the pressure points, the legs, the thighs, your butt, it's your hands just a little bit. I mean, it's all of that stuff.
Your energy.
It's got to be some of your energy, right?
Yeah.
Like if she turns her eyes and looks that way, I think the horse can tell, and it knows to go that way. It's amazing how connected they are. I mean, I think that's a pretty obvious example of what you're talking about, of someone who is pretty well connected to that horse. Do you find horse people connect easier with horses than they do with humans? Like, is it hard to translate that level of connection to a human? Because I have found many horse people are not great people.
Yeah, it's interesting. Over the course of and this is not true of everybody, but over the course of my life, I've met many horse people, and they do seem to trust people less.
Yeah.
But also, the horse industry I feel like it's practically bipolar, because you have people that are amazing people that will literally give you the shirt off their back. They will do anything for the horses. They go above and beyond. They probably don't have the best boundaries, because they're just like, everything they want to do is to serve the horses.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this has probably been like this for the course of history, but I don't know, because I'm only 41 years old. Right. I'm not like 450 or 4,000, whatever, just 41. And and then on the other side, you have people that are really unethical. You have your horse thieves, you have your horse traders, you have the people that just use horses as tools, and they just reef on their face and kick the shit out of them and use really heavy spurs. And, the people that do the pin stuff on, people that really also don't have boundaries, but in a different way. And so I don't think anybody on there is a quote unquote bad person. I think that either they have their own personal pain that sometimes they're wrong targeting into their horses because they don't feel like they have control anywhere else in their lives, or they've never had it modeled that there's a different way. I think there's only a very small portion of the population that's truly like evil and bad.
Right.
I think most people are really trying to do the best they can with what they've been given. And until they're given something else, then that's just how they operate in the world.
Yeah.
So, but I don't feel like there's a handful of people in the middle that are balanced and like ethical, and they do a great thing. But I feel like oftentimes like it's one or the other. And I've experienced both of those people. Like I've had a horse stolen from me before on my 19th birthday.
What?
Yeah. By my farrier. Yeah, no, he did. I was 19 years old. That was a terrible day. terrible day. He stole all my tack. Yeah, I had worked really hard, and I bought a $1,000 saddle when I was 16. $1,000 back in 1996 was a lot of money. That was a big deal.
I mean, today that's a cheap saddle, but yeah.
And it's just like, and then I had 2 pony saddles, and I've had all of that, and then I've had people. There was one person one time I had leased out my horse to a buddy, and he had moved my horse without asking me. He was just following the crowd. There's a whole group of people to the left. They went to this barn where there's this crazy lady, and she threatened to burn down the barn with all the horses in it.
Whoa.
That is a true story. There's more to that story, but we are not going to go down that road. But that is the level of crazy that I have personally experienced, not heard from other people. Like, I've experienced that. Yeah. And then you have the other side of people that have done like everything they possibly can. They've just like, they help you out. A horse gets sick and somebody doesn't have enough money because the horse colicked or whatever, and they'll come together and they'll help you out. Your horse is colicking, and they'll come and they'll help walk your horse around for you so it stays standing. They'll be like, oh my gosh, you need somebody to trailer your horse 2 states away. Let me give you this really great, like, you only have to. I've had somebody tell me that I only had to cover gas, and they drove my horse for me like 500 miles.
Yeah.
That was a huge deal. So like round trip, they drove from their house to pick up my horse and back. So it was like 1,000 miles, like round trip, and they just made me cover gas. That was huge because I was in a tough spot. So there's a lot of different people, and in the equine assisted learning and mental health industry, I've met incredible people from all over the world, people that are radically changing the world and helping other people, like at-risk youth, people with disabilities, like helping, yeah, just so many things, just building out these programs for kids that otherwise don't have opportunities.
Yeah.
And making sure that there's a supportive place for people of color working with the horses. And there's a lot out there that's shifting and changing. And if people want to learn more about that, they can hop on to my YouTube channel, Horsepower Empowerment Through Connection, and hear some of the amazing stories of the people that I've interviewed around the world as they vulnerably share their stories about what they've experienced in the horse industry and what it is that we do, the science behind what it is that we do, the particular area that they're in, be it in the United States, the UK, or Germany or Australia. There are lots of different amazing human beings out there. So I just say to people out there, just don't lose faith. There are a lot of incredible people out there that are doing great things. We just tend to hear about the ones that are doing a terrible job of life.
So true. So true. And like you, I feel most people are genuinely good. Growing up, or not growing up, but living with my crazy ex-wife, she was, kind of militantly religious, and believing that everybody is born sinful, and therefore it's a totally different sort of view on life, and you view individuals differently when you assume most people are good or at least well-intentioned, and it's just a better way to live life. It's what I have found anyway. We've gone so much deeper than I had thought we were going to go in this conversation. I thank you so much for just saying yes when I texted you and said you want to be on my podcast.
Yeah, you're welcome. I had to it took me a minute. I had to put clothes back on. I was just sitting at home watching Game of Thrones. So it was like the last episode. I was like, I guess I can pause it. I've only seen it 3 times before.
I was going to say, are you rewatching it?
Yeah, it's like the 3rd time that I'm rewatching it. I just love dragons. It's a thing.
Okay, so thoughts on the last season as it compares to the rest of these seasons?
Oh God, it's not as good as the other ones. They did such an amazing job, and it kind of reminds me of The Matrix, right? Because the first Matrix was epic.
Yeah,
I love the first. I own all 3 movies. I love it. The second and third one, oh God, it's heartbreaking. Yeah. I wanted to like them so much, and it was really tragic how those played out. And I feel like the end of Game of Thrones is kind of like that because there's just so many holes in the plot. They just rushed it. I feel like they should have just either waited or pushed on the guy more to write more or strung it out so they could have built in more of the characters and why they were where they were instead of just sandwiching it with what they had left in the refrigerator. I'm
so with you. That was the main problem with the last season, was that it seemed rushed. It was like they were trying to it was like somebody said, hey, you only get 1 more season, you're done. Like that's just not how it would have happened. So why did they do that? And I don't know why they got caught up in that. They could have, because if you look, the tone, the pacing, the character development, the writing, the cinematography, all of it, completely different in the rest of the show. It's like they were taking their time and letting it be a slow build. And then it was like, oh gosh, we got 100 yards left to the finish line. Let's run as fast as we can. And of course you're
like, we're out of money. Somebody quick, get it done.
Which is crazy. Because they that could have been 3 more seasons if they had taken their time with it. And I would have been totally fine with that. But I guess they must have run up against something that just wouldn't allow them to do it that way. But
yeah, you want to hear about amazing cinematography, though. If anybody out there hasn't watched the Outlander season, series or whatever, you should absolutely do that because the character development is phenomenal. The acting is phenomenal. The cinematography is phenomenal. There's plenty of sex in there. There's just, it's amazing. I can't speak highly enough of that particular season.
You're not the first person to recommend that to me. I haven't started it yet. So, I'll add that to the list for sure. So we're going to wrap this up, and now I'm going to spring something on you. I'm going to ask you for 3 things. And the 3 things with JR, I've got sort of 3 categories. And
all right,
the first one, when I tell people what the category is and ask them to just come up with something without any preparation, they struggle with it. I have a feeling you're going to be fine because thing one is literally Tell me something inspirational, an epiphany you've had, something deep. I want to just know what's going on in your mind that is kind of a deep thought. And I feel like you've got probably 10 to choose from right now.
I do.
Yeah.
I'll take it right away from when I was doing the Q&A, because a woman told me afterwards that it really hit her, and she repeated it back to me, which is, the past is like a resource library. You can check out a book, but you can't live there.
Nice. That's a solid way of thinking about the past, for sure.
Thank you.
Because you shouldn't just forget it, right?
No.
The past is not just something you should never think about. You should absolutely think about it and use it to make better decisions today.
Right.
All right.
Nothing to forget. You just can't live there. You can't live in the library. You got to be in the present, but make sure that you utilize everything for your past so that it's worth something.
That's good. Yeah, I think you just might have won thing number one. Like, I don't think anybody's had anything better than that ever. So
it's all me. I'd never said it before last week.
That's awesome.
I'd never heard it anywhere else.
Thing number two is I'm struggling with, it must be something in how I present this one, because I haven't gotten what I'm looking for from most people on thing number two. When I was doing my own 3 things on every show, and when I was doing it on Facebook, thing number 2 was, for me, it was always like, hey, here's a band I'm listening to right now and why I love them. Or here's a song that's just, it's an earworm and I just got to tell you about it. Or a show that I just can't stop watching. Or a book I can't stop reading, right? And so I sort of termed that, tell me what's inspiring you right now. And then I explain, hey, I'm looking for art, music, books, movies, TV shows, art, whatever is what's inspiring you right now. And people come up with stuff that is completely not that. So I'm just putting all that out there. What's inspiring you right now?
What's inspiring me right now is sidewalk chalk.
Sidewalk chalk. Like
Yep.
literally
Sidewalk
the big pieces of chalk that you get at, like, on the bottom shelf at Toys R Us for like $4.
Yep, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
So as adults, we are told that we are not supposed to act like children, right?
I've been told that probably more times than most people. Yes.
Yeah. So, but there's this place inside of us that's filled with wonder and joy, and it's sweet and it's pure and it's innocent. And we want people to be good, but yet we tell them to not engage with that part of themselves. And it's the core of what is good. And it's how we play and we create levity in our lives. And for me, sidewalk chalk is engaging that inner child. And to be able to have art and to be able to express myself. And if I want to write poetry, I can, or inspirational phrases. And I can connect with community and bring out the pureness, that wonder child within the people passing by, be they 3-year-olds, 30-year-olds, or 75-year-olds. And people come and they sit on the ground with me as strangers, and they revel in this beautiful moment and are inspired to go out and be more of themselves, because they let themselves for 5 minutes or 15 or 50 to be able to sit down on the ground, the group of strangers, and just be, to let everything else just disappear for a moment and play with sidewalk chalk.
Have you, you've only been in Virginia, Charlottesville since February. Have you seen the free speech wall on the downtown mall?
I have not.
You need to see it.
Okay. I will make that a priority. Thank you for telling me.
It's on the downtown mall towards the end with the pavilion, right? Where they do like Fridays after 5, live music, stuff like that. Yeah. You can see it from there. It's just a nice big slate wall with a little trough all the way around it where usually there's chalk. You can certainly bring your own, but that's what it's for. It's a free speech wall for writing and drawing and writing whatever you want on the wall. And I guess somebody probably cleans it every now and then. The rain might take care of that. I don't know, but You never know what you're going to read on the wall, and it's a lot of fun to see what others have written and to add your own little thing to it. And every time you go down there, it's different because different people have written different things all the time, and it's pretty cool. So I'm with you on that. That's pretty awesome.
Thanks. Appreciate it. I don't know if that hit where you wanted it to, but there you go.
That's absolutely fine. That's what's inspiring you, and you told me. So perfect. Thing number 3. Just tell me something stupid.
Tell you something stupid.
Yeah.
I have a stupid human trick.
Okay.
I have a couple of them, actually. I'm not sure if they're going to be able to hear it.
So was that like a trumpet, a horn of some kind that you're mimicking? What was that?
It's like a built-in kazoo.
Kazoo, yeah, it had a buzziness to it for sure.
Yeah. I don't know how I do that. It's just something that I randomly picked up one time. Does that like buzz the heck out of your lips and make them like itch almost? Oh, it's your tongue. What the hell? Is that like a snake's tongue you have? It's like making a fork with my tongue.
Yeah.
There was this one summer. So there was this girl I went to high school with, Becky Agnew. She's a super sweet woman, and she could fork her tongue, and I couldn't. And so I spent the entire summer. So I used to paint houses for a living for my dad, and so I spent the entire summer staring into the side mirror on the van, trying to work my tongue, which is a muscle, of course, to be able to make it. I had like. Push it. I just like kept working it until I could finally fork my tongue. So there's something stupid for you.
So the forking of the tongue and the kazoo without the kazoo is 2 different tricks, or are they combined? Like, do you fork your tongue while making that?
No, they're 2 different tricks, and then I can do.
Yeah, I wouldn't have guessed that noise came from a human.
And then and then I can do one that's like a T-Rex, but it fucks my throat up.
Wow.
I can only do it like once. So my monster voice. It's a one-off.
Yeah, so you just killed it on thing number 3. I'm kind of speechless. I don't know what to say about that. That was awesome. You have raised the bar on thing number 3 for all future guests and myself included. Because I'm going to go back and record 3 things of my own for the intro on the show, and nothing is going to be that good. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, from silly to serious to deep to like back to silly. You know, we just covered the range. My joke with people is always, it's not just another pretty face.
Well, thank you for agreeing to do this. You did not disappoint. I was thinking I should just call her. It's going to be weird. Like, we literally just met. But I hope to see you again at an upcoming open mic. We've got at least 2 in Charlottesville every week now, starting tomorrow, Monday night. By the time this will go out on Tuesday morning, so by the time this will go out, I will have done comedy the night before at the Southern on the downtown mall. I hope to see you there. If not there, are you signed up for Wednesday night at the Sake Brewery?
I am, actually. I took the leap of faith.
Yes.
We'll see how it goes, and maybe if I get to the place late, to the Southern late tomorrow, maybe you can put me on the list.
If you text me and tell me you're definitely coming, I can put you on the list for sure. If we can make that happen. Okay. Yeah. I know.
So I take a deep breath and be like, sure, I'll just show up at another place totally unprepared. We'll see what comes out this time.
That may be the best way to do it. Just do it.
I should just keep telling my crazy stories.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
For sure.
Since we'll have to use my story voice.
So one last thing before you go, do you want to give the name of your YouTube channels? Anything you want to make sure? I'll put links to stuff in the show notes on this. And absolutely, I'm going to make no shame about the idea that I wanted to talk to you, and partly I'm hoping that people who know who you are figure out who I am and maybe listen to the podcast. So
for sure,
hopefully this helps.
Yeah.
And for all those people that actually watched your video, I'm the bald guy who comes in and fixes the feedback problem about halfway through. So I make a small sort of cameo in your stand-up comedy video debut. I'm proud of that.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you very much for that. And also, he is the very kind host who helped me not feel like I was as much of a mess and gave me such great feedback and recommended that I come back. So thank you again so much for providing such a welcoming atmosphere for a newbie to come into.
Right on. No problem. I've been welcomed into the comedy community in Charlottesville and beyond by nothing but the nicest people. And so it's a pretty great community that I feel lucky to be a part of. So anybody that's willing to go out there and get on stage and try to make people laugh, it's one of the hardest things you can do.
Yeah, it is. And the other part, to answer your previous question about me going up on stage, it was hard because I couldn't hear people laughing. And so if you watch the video, you can hear people laughing.
Yeah.
But when I was on stage, I didn't know when jokes were landing, because only when there was the occasional, like, really big laugh did I know that something landed, which is why if you watch the video, there'll be times when I'm like, wow, crickets, huh?
Right.
But you can hear the laughter. I just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, that particular venue, the sound system's not great. The sound in the room, like, it's not perfectly set up for that. It's still,
you need rows.
For sure. So the Southern is a much better open mic because of that. You definitely have a way to connect with the audience. You can see them, you can hear them. It's a better show because of all that.
Maybe I just need to walk through the audience next time at the Sake Brewery. Do we have to stay on stage?
Not at all. Well, I mean, you're limited by the length of the mic cord, and that mic cord was short, but we could always add another cord to it and make it longer and give you flexibility. So I might bring another cord just to make sure we have some room to move.
Or get a wireless mic.
Yeah, we're just using the Sake Brewery's PA, and
okay.
So I have wireless mics, but they're all sort of built into a rack of equipment for my band. I play music as well, so yeah, wireless mics could solve the problem. They bring in problems of their own.
Yes, no, I'm sure they all the different things do, just like everything in life. So so promotion. So
yes.
I have, for my 2 YouTube channels, Horsepower, Empowerment Through Connection, horse, like the thing that you ride.
Uh-huh.
And then I have Global Resources for Men, which I'm uploading interviews I have done with men over the last calendar year. And then the Facebook group for the men is also Global Resources for Men. If you answer all 3 questions, you automatically get to be part of it. Sorry, ladies, there are no ladies allowed. It is a sacred space for men only. Men or those who identify as male. I leave that to your integrity. I also have a women's group, which is called Phoenix Rising Women's Group. And as with the men's group, the ladies only get to join that, or those who identify as women. So sorry, guys. No gentlemen allowed, although we did have an amazing speaker from England this last week that talked about erotica. So you'll have to get your wives and girlfriends to watch it if you want to partake in that amazing video. Or maybe I'll be like really generous and I'll put it on my basic page. So we'll see. That might still happen because it is an epic interview. But we dive deep into all the things. In the men's group and in the women's group, we cover codependency. We cover emotional regulation, mindset, goal setting. We talk about if people like domestic violence. We talk about sexual and physical and emotional abuse. We talk about people who are parents of kids with special needs. We talk about people who are parents of trans kids and what that is like for them to support. We talk about death and rites of passage. We talk about a lot of different things. Talk about sex because, most people are having it or want to be. So there's that. Physical and mental health. We run the gambit. So, and we're continuing to build out actual resources for all of you out there to have a voice and a safe space to engage and have some fun too. Because we can't be serious all the time. We got to be silly. That's why we're here.
Absolutely. You can't always be serious. And I hope there's some people out there listening that take you up on this and find your groups and find what it is missing for them. So I really hope. I knew that you did some stuff. I started looking at your Facebook page, and I was like, she seems like way more than I even thought of when I met you. It just made me want to call you and talk to you more. And again, this went significantly deeper than I thought it would, and I'm so happy. I'm not going to edit anything out of this conversation unless you tell me there's something that we shouldn't say. But it's going to...
No, we're all good. And if anybody really resonates with me and you want me to be on your podcast, I'm always open. I've been in 6 different countries being hosted. And also, if you're interested in connection coaching and what that might look like to help you with any struggles that you have going on in your own personal life, please DM me through my Facebook page, Elysia Jane Buss.
Elysia, thank you so much for doing this. It was a pleasure talking to you. And if I don't see you tomorrow night at the Southern, I'll see you Wednesday at the Sake Brewery.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been really fun. I appreciate you.
Thanks. See you later.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye. Woo, you made it. This is the end of the show. You've listened this far. You must have found Elysia Buss as interesting as I did. Had a really fun conversation. Big thanks to her for being on the show, especially with zero notice. I texted her. She said yes. I called her. It was that quick. And she killed it. Probably the best 3 things we've ever had on the show. She nailed it, and I'm so excited. And again, to you, the listener, you're still here. I don't know why you're still here. I mean, the show's over. I just told you. But yeah, we're going to throw some theme music on the end of this. And we'll be back next week with who knows what's going to happen. This is 3 Things with JR. Over and out. Peace. Good night. I love you.
It's a brand new